Welcome to a Legendarium special in which we will talk about 5 ways that Roman emperors died horribly. Recent studies have shown that more than half of all Rome's emperors died a violent death, and in this special we will talk about 5 of the most horrific deaths. The first Roman emperor to die violently became Caligula, infamous for marrying his sister and declaring himself a god. He also took to bedding the wives of his own allies and his bodyguards, which proved a terrible career move. His own bodyguards, the Praetorian Guard, followed him into a secret tunnel that led from the local circus, where he watched a sporting event. One of his men asked for the military watchword of the day, and Caligula answered Jupiter. Since Jupiter happened to be the god of sudden death, a second guard named Chaerea approached Caligula from behind and shouted, "Let it be so." He split open the emperor's jaw with his sword, and Caligula fell writhing to the floor, his jaw hanging off his face. The other conspirators then stabbed him to death, which proved devastating to his political career. The conspirators then cut Caligula's genitals off, and to put an end to his bloodline, they chopped his wife to death and dashed his 1-year-old daughter Julia against a wall. They then found his uncle Claudius hiding behind a curtain, pulled him out, and declared him to be the new emperor. Secondly, Galba might have been the first person to fill the power vacuum left by Nero's suicide in 68 AD, but he would not be the last. His tight-fisted and unpopular reign lasted just 7 months from when he seized the imperial purple in June 68 to his assassination on January 15, 69 AD. After Galba refused to reward the Praetorian Guards for making him emperor, since he feared that would make him look corrupt, they proclaimed another man named Otho to be their emperor. Deciding that they needed to lure Galba away from the safety of his palace, they sent soldiers to him bearing the news that Otho had been killed. Galba set off through the forum only to be suddenly abandoned by his attendants, and he then found Otho's cavalry approaching him. The emperor faced death bravely, baring his throat to the assassins and urging him to strike if they believed that the right thing to do. It seems they did. Galba did have some loyal German bodyguards, but they became hopelessly lost while trying to find him. One of the assassins pulled out his sword and decapitated Galba. However, he struggled to hold on to Galba's head because Galba had gone completely bald. Unable to carry it, he simply hauled the severed head inside his tunic on his way through the forum. Upon reaching the Praetorian camp, he pulled it out, stuck his thumb in the mouth in order to hold it properly, and carried it to Otho, the new emperor who wore the imperial purple for less than 3 months before being retired from politics and life himself. Domitian ruled for a while longer, from 81 to 95 AD. He had some real achievements to his name, including successful military campaigns and launching major construction projects. However, he also grew paranoid after several leading aristocrats tried to take the imperial purple from him at swordpoint. To gain information on other possible plots against his life, he ordered interrogators to chop off the hands or scorch the genitals of political prisoners. He lined the gallery where he took his daily walks with polished moonstone, which reflected everything behind him. In time, a final conspiracy against Domitian included his fearful wife Domitia. Stephanus, a member of Domitian's staff, had been accused of embezzlement and feared for his life. He approached the empress and offered his services. For days he faked an arm injury and wore a wrapping, but the bandage concealed a dagger. Approaching Domitian, he said he had a list of conspirators in a conspiracy that he uncovered. As Stephanus approached the emperor, he pulled out his dagger and stabbed Domitian in the groin. Domitian reached for a knife he kept under his pillow, but his attendant Parthenis had removed the blade the previous night. In the months that followed, Rome celebrated the tyrannicide by turning over Domitian's statues and ripping apart his ceremonial arches. Fourth, during the 3rd century AD, Elagabalus became one of Rome's most infamous emperors. He attempted to bring an Eastern cult into Rome, married at least 3 times in 4 years, and devoted more time to partying and animal sacrifice than to ruling. In time, his aunt pressured him to name his 13-year-old cousin Alexanus his heir, to show that he at least thought of the future. However, he realized that Alexanus might become a threat to him. On March 11th, 222, Elagabalus ordered the execution of his cousin Alexanus. However, the Praetorian Guard refused and supported Alexanus instead. Alexanus's mother, Julia Mamaea, might have persuaded them to remain loyal with large bribes. On June 13th, while at the Praetorian Guard camp trying to rally support, the Praetorians instead attacked Elagabalus and his mother. The 18-year-old emperor tried to hide in a latrine, but they tore open the door and stabbed him to death. They then murdered his mother, stripped their corpses naked, beheaded them, and dragged them through the streets of Rome. Finally, they tried to force Elagabalus and his mother into a sewer grate, judging the sewer to be a proper tomb for them, but they found the grate too small. So they attached weights to the corpses and sank them into the Tiber River, mockingly calling Elagabalus by the title Conqueror of the Tiber. Our 5th and final egregious imperial demise took place during the twilight of the West Roman Empire. By the rare accounts available, Emperor Joannes seems to have been a senior civil servant of some ability who became emperor in 423 AD. Unfortunately, he failed to establish a firm grip on the empire. Procopius, an ancient scholar, called him both gentle and well endowed with sagacity and thoroughly capable of valorous deeds. Despite this, Joannes became engulfed in war with the East Roman Empire. In 425 AD, after Joannes wore the imperial purple for only 2 years, the Eastern Empire's army captured him. They celebrated by chopping off his hands and then cauterizing the stumps with red-hot irons. They then placed him on a donkey to be paraded around and jeered at in Constantinople's Hippodrome. Having suffered both insult and injury, the East Romans then put Joannes out of his misery by decapitating him. And that wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.